Okay, hey everybody, and welcome to ChiuStream, where we talk about art and life as an artist. I'm your host, Bobby Chiu, and today I have on here my wonderful co-host, Xuan Chan.
Hi, Bobby. Hi, everyone.
Right on. And if anybody has any questions, you caught the stream live, so you can ask your questions at slido.com, hashtag ChiuStream. This is a bit of a impromptu stream just because we kind of felt like it and it's been a while. So there is no Discord today, but look out for that in the future. Okay, so what are we doing today, Xuan? We are doing some live painting. This is going to be
Yeah.
fun because I'm going to be doing this completely live as we're taking questions. Oh boy, I hope it goes well.
When's the last time you did something like that, Bobby? Like, painting while answering questions.
Yes, it's been years. It's been years. Why? Because generally before I would answer questions as I was painting, which means like I can't really answer any questions because I'm painting. So I would have to stop painting, look at the questions, and then it kind of, I don't know, doesn't look as cool because of that,
Mm,
right? So
looks like, oh, yeah.
in this case, I got my co-host, you.
All right.
So I figured, we could try this out again.
Okay.
Yeah. So the other thing is, I wanted to, I'm always trying to like theme these talks and everything, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
today's theme, I want to talk a around the subject of creating goals, you know, especially since the time of the year it is and everything. It's kind of like, yeah, let's do that, you know? That kind
Perfect
of makes
topic.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Perfect.
goals. Why create goals? What kind of goals do we have? I would love to kind of start off with actually just asking you a little bit. We haven't talked about this previously since this
Hmm.
stream was kind of like very, very last minute. But I want to talk to you about like what kind of goals do you set for yourself?
Like, you mean for this year or the next?
Yeah, for this year. Why don't we go for this year?
Mm. This year was like a pretty simple one. It was just mostly journaling about like art, journaling about
Oh,
what
wow.
yeah, like writing more. I remember Tuna also do the same thing, so it was
Tuna
really nice.
Bora, yes.
That's right, Tuna Bora. Yeah, yeah.
So let me ask you then. You obviously you set this goal in the beginning of 2019, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
that right?
Mm-hmm.
So how did it go? Were you able to complete your goal?
Pretty much. And you know what's the weird thing? I feel like I catch up with all these things mostly during workshop trips. Like the long flight from Singapore to Dublin or Copenhagen. That's where I fill up like my journal pages.
Because I've been trying, I've done the journaling thing before. I haven't really stayed with it completely, which
Mm.
I am a little disappointed in myself for not staying with it. But you were able to stay with it. Now, how often did you commit to journaling?
Oh yeah, see that's the thing. I didn't knowing myself, I didn't set like too lofty a goal. I just did it like every month, right? I just need to know like
Wow.
every point form, like what I did this month, the highlights of this month. And I think that's still manageable. Like daily it's a little hard to keep up, but in a month at least I can keep account like what happened this month, what I'm looking forward to the next month and stuff like that.
I would
Yeah.
love to talk about that a little bit because that's something that I found a lot of people do uh, wrong with goals is, okay, I'm going to give myself a year to be an artist, you know,
Mm,
and I'm
mm,
going to give myself a year to become a professional freaking artist, even though other people are taking 5 years, four
mhm.
years, hard work. Now, it is possible. And I have seen it happen. Like I remember Anthony Jones, his
Mm,
kind of rise to a professional level was actually very quick, but he would spend literally 8 days or 8 hours a day, kind of thing, all the time
mm,
on his craft. Um,
And he's like smart about it too, right?
Exactly, exactly. Well, I don't know the whole entire details, but he did like come up out of the noise very, very quickly, and then everybody started to notice. Um, Now, how the career ends up in the future, hey, that's a different story and that's a different topic that I would love to talk about as well. How,
Mhm.
not necessarily Anthony, but I'm just saying in general, how do you kind of make those goals work out for you in the end? You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
yeah, for them to not just be something that you did this year, but how do you make it so it's long lasting effects in your career?
Like, I remember you saying this in one of our previous meetings. Like, it's all about breaking the goal into actionable tasks, right? Like, you're really good at that. And I'm just wondering, like, like you helped me with that for sure. Like, I'm pretty sure if you share some of that, people would want to know as well. Like, instead of, like, you're always telling me, instead of writing, finish this by today, break it down into 30 minutes of this. I think it helps so much. Like, not a lot of people plan that way.
Well, I'm glad that it helps you because, like, half the time I'm like, is it going to, um, is it gonna just make you just go, oh, it's too much to think about? Or, like, I'm trying this direction, now you're telling me to go in this direction, and that can be hard. That can be hard,
Mm,
right? You know what
mm,
I mean?
yeah,
Because we all kind of go through it. But yeah, that's really great uh, that it's been helping. So the whole entire idea is that a lot of people they have these goals of what they need to accomplish, but not how they're going to accomplish it,
exactly.
right? Or these goals that are way too lofty, way too much, and it's just not doable in the time allotted. And sometimes it's like, wow, if you gave that person 2 years, they would have accomplished their goals, changed their lives. But instead, they gave themselves 1 year, didn't accomplish their goals, gave up thinking that it's even possible.
Right. They get disillusioned by it.
Yeah. They don't
Hmm.
think that they're good enough simply because their timelines were way too short. So it's like, listeners, what are your goals and how much time are you realistically giving yourself? We're not superheroes. Some of us, we can do the whole entire, okay, yeah, 4 hours of drawing every day, starting now, starting from nothing. Even though my life is full of stuff to do, I got 4 children and this and that, and, all these things. So,
Mm.
we can't do that to ourselves. We gotta give ourselves realistic goals. And a lot of times, I could tell you just from experience talking with so many people and this and that, generally, I find that people that are really goal oriented and are able to accomplish their goals have, they might have still very lofty goals, very big goals, but they don't give themselves just 1 month. Or if it's something really big, they don't give themselves 1 year. I have 10-year goals,
Mm.
and I really feel like a lot of people they might have done this before, but it's
Hmm.
not as common of a thing anymore. To have such long goals.
Right. That's really interesting that you are just, like talking about this because on Slido, someone asked a very similar question.
Oh,
Someone
awesome.
asked, how do you manage your main goals and minor goals? For example, 6 months of figure drawing fundamentals and perspective versus 2 weeks of character design, for example. So it's kind of like what you're talking about, right? How do you break down the main goals and then the minor ones that gets you to the main goals?
Huh. Well, what are your thoughts first?
Hmm. I feel it's kind of similar to what you've been kind of like mentoring me about, making sure your main goals is like a main goal, but then the minor goals are the steps that you can actually take, like actionable stuff, right? And giving them like a time. frame and a reasonable time frame, and reasonable being that it's not too crazy that you get disillusioned if it doesn't go well, and being forgiving about that as well.
I feel like it's like setting goals. There's two parts to it. One part is the immediate, what are you doing today? And then the other one is like the long term look at things like,
Mm,
okay, where do I want to be in 5 years?
mm,
So I have my long term goal. So, for example, Lightbox was a big long term goal,
yeah.
where we just kept heading into a direction that made it possible for us to create the biggest freaking artist, focused event in the world and the most awesome, whatever. Loved it. Okay. The thing about it is, if we just have that long term goal, are we going to reach it? No, because what are we doing every day? So then you have your long term goal, and then you have your short term goals that all point towards your long term goal in smaller chunks. So, for example, okay, I have that long term goal. Now, how can I kind of break that into smaller goals? Well, what kind of things will I need to know to be able to achieve that long term goal? Right? So, for example, I guess, let's take one of your long term goals, for example. Chuan, what's your long term goal?
Oh, mine.
Yeah.
How about we take the guy from Slido?
Okay, yeah.
He's saying like exactly what you're saying, like he's trying to break his goals into chunks and specific steps, but the more he breaks into the main goal, the more things he finds he needs to work on, and he doesn't know what to prioritize. And
Uh,
I'm guessing like it would definitely depend on what your main goal is, and being specific also about your main goal, right?
well, what is
Like
his
I
main goal?
yeah, he didn't say, that's the thing.
Okay, so I'm trying to get like an example of a main goal. You know what I mean? Um,
Mm. So, like for example, if he wants to be a character designer, because I see him like the examples he's giving is like figure drawing, perspective, character design,
yes,
so everything,
yes.
yeah,
Okay,
concept
so
art.
so
Mm-hmm.
say something like that. Uh,
Mm,
if I was gonna do everything again, now that I know everything that I know, oh my goodness. Okay, let's talk about
mm,
this for a second. What would I do first? Well, first, I would schedule into my day. Okay, here is the hour or hours that I'm gonna dedicate to drawing. If I'm able to do that, then amazing. Some people will not be able to because their schedules are so all over the place. It's so unpredictable. Maybe you have kids, maybe, whatever it might be. So instead, I go to myself, okay, well, how much time will I want to spend on this goal minimum? Not how much time ideally would I want to spend. So ideally, I'd want to spend like 3 or 4 hours drawing, but maybe
mm,
that's not realistic in my situation. So, how much time minimum will I uh, want to draw for? Maybe half an hour. Okay. So, half an hour, that's still kind of doable, even if it's a really, really busy day. Well,
mhm,
then, okay, well, that's great. I put that into my schedule. I say 3 o'clock to 3:30. I'm going to just do something towards my goal. I'm going to paint and draw or whatever, draw for half an hour. If I go over that, I don't have to stop. I could keep going. That's awesome. And a lot of times you'll find that you can. You will. And if you can't, that's okay. You do that half an hour, you can feel great about yourself. You accomplished today's goal. And it's that momentum that's really going to help you. A lot of times we have these lofty goals that are just too hard to maintain. Working out for 2 hours a day or something like that. If you're
mm,
not working out at all, for you to keep that goal, it's going to be very difficult.
mm,
So give yourself an easier goal that you can maintain and hopefully surpass more often than not. And then you got some momentum, right? And then so you put that into your daily calendar. And then I also have in there, um, like, I have in my calendar every few months to change my focus when I meditate. Because
mm,
towards a part of my meditation, I think about, I kind of imagine the things that I want to change improve whatever in my life. So then I have the long term goals also in my calendar, when to switch that, that thing that I'm concentrating on. Sorry, I'm painting at the same time. This is why I don't do this that often, painting at the same time.
It's difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's another question. So this is an interesting one.
Yes, please.
Bob, do you reward yourself for accomplishing your goals? How do you reward yourself?
Yeah, I don't really, I think that's something that I could do better on,
Mm,
reward myself. I don't really reward myself too much because my goals are goals that I really would love to accomplish. So accomplishing them is the reward in itself. But this is a really great question, and it makes me think, I need to think about how will I um, reward myself.
mm. Well, that's true what you're saying. Like there's a sense of fulfillment already that you feel like that's reward. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? If you can get to that point, then that becomes like so powerful. I used to have this really stupid, um, well, not stupid, but stupid for me, my personality and what I believe in now and stuff like that. I used to have a stupid goal, which was at this certain point, if I get to this point in my life, then I will buy myself a Porsche. Pretty dumb. Pretty dumb. It dumb for me because I'm not that into cars, Xuan. Like,
Mm,
I don't know what people ask. What kind of car do you drive? I don't know. It's a BMW something, and I don't freaking know. I don't know what year. I don't know nothing. Um, so in that case, it was a pretty dumb goal for me. I don't know where this is going. This is kind of difficult painting and drawing at the same time, but um,
right, but you're saying like you have switched that kind of reward kind of goal mentality now. You don't see that as something. How did you shift from that very tangible goal to like just saying, like the fulfillment of getting a job well done, or having people come up to you and say, Lightbox has changed my life, or Schoolism has changed my life. Like, how did that take over the Porsche?
It was really once I got to the goal of being able to afford a Porsche, I was like, this is stupid. I don't want a Porsche.
Right.
Honestly, it's like a lot of times, and tell me in the comments or whatever if you feel the same. A lot of times you reach your goal and it isn't what you thought it would be.
Mm.
And that's part of goal setting as well. Now, why would you want to even make goals then if we're talking about goals and we're having so much difficulty actually talking about goals in the first place? A person with no goals allows chance to steer his or her life. That's why we have to have goals.
That's very true.
And when you let chance just do its thing, who knows where you're going to end up. At least this way, you can have a bit of a say in where you're going to end up.
That's very true. It drives a lot of your decisions, I would say.
Yes, 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 exactly.
Mm.
Okay, I shouldn't have picked a furry thing because now I'm just like, okay, how am I going to finish this furry thing? But we'll try our best. Already 20 minutes have gone by. Do we have another question? Why don't we go to another question?
Yes, yes, we do. So, hi, Bobby. How do you achieve your goal on making your first art book?
Oh, yes. We're kind of going through that a little bit right now, Xuan.
Yeah,
So Xuan's
exactly.
making a book. Now the pressure's on. Now it's so real, Xuan.
Oh, I know, I know. It just got real fast. Thank you, Comical Foods.
So
That's the user. Yeah.
Xuan's making a book. I'm making a book. Masay's making another book.
Yeah.
How are we gonna get this done? So first we thought, well, when do we want the book to come out? Okay, well, we want it to hopefully come out at Comic Con. Comic Con's in July. Okay, well, when do we want the books shipped to San Diego Comic Con? Probably 3 days before. How much time does it take to ship? How much, when would we want the books to land in Toronto or wherever they're going to be for us to ship them to San Diego Comic Con and so on and so forth? And you just keep going backwards. And that's how
Mhm.
you kind of schedule out your goals. Now, if you're thinking of a lofty goal, like a 10-year goal, let's talk about that for a sec because 10-year goals, that's where the juice is. That's where the real power is. And because hardly anybody does that anymore, it becomes even more powerful, right? So, 10-year goal, Schwen, I don't want you to feel uncomfortable here, but can we make a 10-year goal for you?
Wow,
Where would you like to be in 10 years?
this would take a while.
Well, you know what? The cool thing is, okay, I'll get you off the hook here. The cool thing is that 10-year goals, you can pretty much, I feel like you could pretty much dream of anything. You know,
Yeah.
like think about
Mm.
Mark Zuckerberg 15 years ago is broke, pretty much. You know, like he's not broke, but he's not like some billionaire
Fashion.
or something.
Hmm.
You know, Amazon, not that long ago. You know, 10 years into Amazon, and then how are they doing? His life's completely changed. Everything's completely changed. How many people, their lives were completely different 10 years ago? Most people.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Like, if we said like 10 years ago, which is probably around the same time that I met you, Bobby, I
Wow.
don't think we would have predicted like Box Expo. We would not have predicted like so many things.
Yeah, well, I was thinking Lightbox Expo.
I remember we had this idea of like a art retreat, and then it
Yes.
became like Box. Yeah,
Yes. So Lightbox Expo, it's very interesting. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. In the very
mm,
beginning, the very first iteration of Lightbox Expo was an idea of Art Island,
yeah, I
right?
remember that.
So the idea is a gathering of all the best artists in the world, not just visual artists, but cooks, dancers, musicians, all this stuff, and we would gather on our island, Art Island, and hang out and learn and, get inspired and all this stuff. Now, then what happened was I got to meet a friend where he was talking about what happens when you really own an island. And, this friend actually has experience with that and was like, there's lots of animals that will come onto your island depending on where it is. And, very likely they're all government protected and you don't want to kill big animals and stuff like that or animals in general. And he started to talk to me about this. I was like, man, having an island is actually a lot of work.
Mm.
And so on and so forth. How are we going to maintain this island? And, do I really want to travel on a boat to get to buy my groceries? That kind of thing. Anyways, it was a great way to start off a goal. And we still ended up there, right? Where the essence of the goal was to create a gathering of artists. So it's
Mhm.
like, it's, I've heard of this saying where it's like every really, every war plan is straightforward and awesome uh, until the war starts. Then everything changes, but the objective is generally still the same.
It's a great saying. Like I remember Carter Goodrich said something like that. That when people ask him how did he get where he is now, from doing New Yorker covers to doing character designs for Pixar and stuff like that, and then he said, "Yeah, just know your goals, but then also let opportunities take you. Don't be afraid to like try things that you never thought you would try, and somehow you would like discover there's a whole new thing that might be different from your goal, but you end up in a really nice place instead."
I love that. I love that. You know what? It's kind of like when you say that, I'm just thinking, yeah, it's like you have your destination in mind and you're on the
Mm,
surfboard, You're not going to be able to go that exact path that you want.
exactly. Yeah,
Life
that's
is the
true.
waves, and you just got to learn to surf the waves still towards
Right.
your destination. But that's
Mm,
so like theoretical and like, okay, well, how's that going to really get to me, to my goals? Um, Now, back to the whole entire idea of I want to be a famous character designer, or I want to be a character designer. It doesn't have to be famous or nothing, but I want to be a character designer. I want to create stuff. Well, a lot of times, I really don't like this. If any of your teachers have told you don't try to be a character designer, don't try to be a concept artist or whatever, because there's too many people that are more experienced than you know what? I want you to tell them like a big FU from Bobby Chu. Because that is the stupidest advice I've ever heard. There's always going to be new and awesome character designers. Uh, where was Shiyoung
Yeah.
Kim, one of the best character designers out there right now. Where was he 15 years ago?
Mm, mm,
Where was Corey Loftus? Hardly any of us heard of Corey Loftus, 15 years ago or whatever. If you want to
mm,
do this kind of stuff, hey, everybody starts somewhere.
mhm.
So it's definitely possible, and don't let none of your teachers say otherwise. Um, but yeah, so how do we get there? Well, now we're scheduling out our schedules and everything, and now we have time allotted to get closer towards our goals. And where do we go from here? Well, one way, yeah, I think it's two-parted. It's two parts, right? One is collecting the knowledge that you need to get to that next level. And the other one is practicing to absorb that knowledge. You know what I mean? And like, I feel like most people do one really good, but not the other.
Like applying.
Yes. Yes. Or learning. You know,
Mm,
a lot of people, they will take a lot of classes and they do very well taking a lot of classes, but they keep taking these classes and then they're not really good by the end of it. You know what I mean? But then they say, "Oh, well, I've taken like 20 different courses."
right, right, right.
And then you got other people that are super dedicated, always working hard, and maybe not that much progress.
Mm,
Now, I'm in that boat of I kind of go back and forth. I'll have my moments where I'm learning heavily, but not really practicing much. And then I'll have moments where I'm practicing a ton, but not really learning many more new things. Do you know what I mean? Where do you kind of fit into this?
I feel like what you just said was kind of like me as well. Like, I take a lot of classes and I put in like 100% in them, and then I do the homework assignments like hardcore. But then when it comes to applying on your own stuff, that's where I'm stumped because there's no brief. I'm like my own um, teacher, like my own,
Ah, I see.
yeah, and yeah, the harshest critic, right? So that's where I kind of land.
Well, let me ask you this. A lot of times, what I see from students and things like that is they learn how to draw a finger, right?
Mm,
And they got the lesson to draw a finger. They finish that lesson and they're trying to draw full on action poses of like the whole entire body,
mhm,
skipping
mhm,
those steps. Kind of like,
mhm.
okay, well, maybe you should practice drawing fingers for a while after that lesson. When you're starting to do your own thing, are you kind of jumping steps too much? Is what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean. And then
And we're all guilty of this kind of stuff, or a lot of us, anyways.
that's very true. Someone asked CJ Allison, "Hi Bobby, when setting your goals for the new year, do you have art goals and other personal ones? And if so, how do you decide how to balance the both of them?"
Ooh, love this.
Yeah, I
Art
feel like this
goals.
one answer. Yeah.
I think it's definitely easier um, when you just don't have that many goals. It's so powerful to just have simple thinking when it comes to like goal setting. When you have too many goals, then you're kind of like, the whole thing when you're spinning plates on set. It's like everybody can pretty much spin one plate. Just doing
Yeah,
two plates, all of a sudden it becomes so much more difficult.
yeah. This whole juggling act.
Yeah. So that's what I would say is like try to just have less goals. If you have only two goals, then that definitely becomes a lot simpler.
So do you set like say 80% of your day it's for your art goals and 20% is your personal life kind of goal, like more for your social? And I this is interesting because I remember we talked about this as well, Bobby, like how you feel a need to not be swallowed up by your work and you have to take the time to like, you know, hang out with your friends and you actually allocate time to do it.
Yes, I force myself to hang out with
Yeah,
friends because I
yeah.
know naturally I will just become a hermit and won't talk to anybody. I don't know if anybody else is like that, but I'm definitely like that. Um, I don't really think about it as like percentages, but I do think about it as like, okay, this goal, I need to do this often. So hang out
Mm,
with my friends and stuff, I need to do that at least once a month. That's not that bad, you know? And if I'm able to do it like twice a month, then that's great. Um,
mm, mm,
and I'll just kind of keep things like that. Like, how often would I want to wake up early to go exercise or whatever that might be? I'll come up with kind of like an amount. And that amount is not the amount that I ideally would like to do. It's the amount that I feel is easy for me to commit to,
mm.
because that becomes so much more powerful when you could commit to something than instead like trying to do a lofty thing and not being able to continue it, even though you continued it maybe for like 3 months before you stopped. It's just not as powerful.
That's really, really interesting. That's definitely something I'll have to remember as well.
Yeah, like, okay, right now you're doing this
Art
awesome
book.
art book, and it's like, are your goals too lofty?
I know you're always telling me that, and I have to remind myself that too, because everybody wants to do this epic thing in their mind where they imagine like, whoa, this like crazy world building idea. But you're right about the time frame and being realistic about it, and how this quickly disillusion you can get if you don't reach that lofty goal, or
Oh,
if you give it a
yeah.
try, you realize how far off that is. It kind of like, yeah, it can totally like demoralize you instead and like
Yeah, you feel
backfire.
like, oh man, I'm not good enough to do this goal.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, but that is interesting because you always hear people like James Cameron on like his Avatar or whatever. Like he had that idea for 20 years, but he just knows that he doesn't have the budget and like the technology to do that. So he shelved that idea for 20 years plus, you know.
You know
So
what? I was just
yeah.
thinking about this, and I was like, you know what kind of like the secret sauce is? I just
Mm-hmm.
freaking realized this, so I don't know if it's totally true. I'm pretty sure it's true. The idea is to have these lofty long term goals, 10-year goals, where it's like this movie that can't even be made right now.
Uh-huh,
This
uh-huh,
event that couldn't even possibly happen right now.
mm-hmm.
And then having your immediate goals much easier,
Right.
right? Your short-term goals are goals that are pointed towards your big, lofty, long-term goal. But your
Mm-hmm.
short term goals are done in a way where it's like, oh yeah, I can easily do that in a day. That's what it is. That's what I've been doing this whole entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I will have these huge goals, and honestly, like when I first come up with the goal, I don't know how I'm gonna achieve this. I'm looking at it like, how the heck is that gonna happen, right? But then I'll keep having these smaller goals, these day-to-day goals, where I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll do this today, I'll do that today, I'll keep it going, and then we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Kind
Right.
of makes it. What's that?
Sorry. No, go ahead, Bobby. Yeah.
Oh, I was just like, kind of makes things a lot easier to do or kind of believe in yourself and digest and do every day.
Mhm. Smaller steps.
Yeah, like so that whole entire half an hour thing,
Yeah.
that's actually what I would suggest to people that are doing the subscription version of Schoolism. Because, with the subscription version of Schoolism, you get access to all the classes, but no deadlines,
Mm.
right? So you don't have that pressure of finishing assignments. And instead, for me, for if you are really busy, if you have a full time job, this and that, my whole entire thing is I want to uh, I want to spend at least half an hour a week watching a Schoolism video. That is
Mm.
super doable. Half an hour a week, you know. That doesn't mean like that's only the amount of time that I'll be painting and drawing. No, like
It's a minimum.
yeah, and that's actually watching the videos. That's not doing the artwork.
Right. Right.
So even though it does sound like, that's such a small goal, I need bigger goals than that, it's actually a pretty good one, especially
Mm.
for full time artists, parents, whatever, things like that.
Mm. It adds up.
It definitely, definitely adds up. It's all about that consistency that'll,
Mm-hmm.
take you to those bigger goals, right?
Mm-hmm. So there's like another question that a lot of people voted up.
Sure.
Oh, it's again from CJ. He said, "How do you relearn to love drawing and art for fun when it becomes more of an obligation?"
Oh, you know
It's
what?
very fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I would re-question the kind of jobs that you have going on. And then think about that long term goal. What is that job that you would actually love? What is that scenario? And try to paint the picture there. And that's your goal now. That's the that's where you're headed towards. The other thing is there's no perfect job. I could tell you that. There's even if you're working on the biggest blockbuster movies, say you're working on Marvel movies every single day
Mm-hmm.
and you're getting 3 credits every year and it's amazing. But
Mm-hmm.
do you think doing that many movies, that much work is simple? Do you think that you'll still be able to have as much free time as the average person? Probably not. You're probably having to work way more, with way more pressure, and way longer hours, and you're consistently painting beside all these other insanely talented people. Um, it might be a lot of pressure. I'm just saying that there's no perfect thing. A lot of times people look at my situation, they're like, and big time professionals working in big time studios, they look at my situation and they're like, I want that. That's where I
Mm-hmm.
want to be. I want my own thing. I want to have my own studio, this and that. Well, guess what? I generally I get in before most people, and I start work before most people, and I leave after most people. Is that the life that you want? You have
Mm.
to really question it.
The sacrifices that you have to make.
Yeah. And then a lot of times I'm sitting where I'm sitting and I'm looking at like the Frozen 2 rap party or something. I'm like, wow, I wish I was there? So it comes both ways. There's nothing that's perfect. It's more like, how do you kind of make your, oh, how do you kind of, this is what it is. How do you kind of find the things that you love about your job and expand them? And try to shrink down the things that you don't like about your job. Whether that's just in your mind or in actual reality, like doing less of that thing,
Mm.
I've seen both work really well. And this was something that actually was told to me by an Oscar winning director, Brenda Chapman. She said
Mm,
this to me. She was like, there's always slices of your job that you're going to love. When the going gets tough, concentrate on those things.
that's really good one.
I love that. And, she's brilliant. She's a genius.
Mm,
And she has a little golden statue to prove it, you know?
mhm.
Um, but yeah, I digress.
Right.
Let's go on to another question.
Yeah, so kind of like to twist that question around, like say, I'm guessing this is what he meant because he was asking about the practices or like the fundamental things that you can learn or practice before you get to the main goal to get good. So I'm thinking like he was asking like when it becomes an obligation, for example, if you say like 1 hour of anatomy studies and then 1 hour of like I don't know, texture study. So he's saying like what if it becomes an obligation, like you kind of drag yourself to the gym kind of feeling, how do you learn to have fun doing that? How do you get that spark on again,
You know what
knowing
I
that you
do? Yeah,
miss out?
I hear
Yeah.
you because I don't want to go to the gym either. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what I do specifically with the gym is I have a song. I have a song
Mm,
that I'll put on. And every time I put on this song, I will consciously try to get into that mode where I'm excited. Okay, and every time I'm excited to do that thing, I will put that song on. And so, what am I doing? Sounds like Bobby's trying to brainwash himself. I kind of am. I kind of am. And so I have these two different songs where I put it on and I think about the gym instantly because that's what I've conditioned myself to constantly, listen to when I go to the
mm-hmm.
gym. Do the same thing. Maybe it's these podcasts. We are such creatures of habit, right? So every time you listen to this podcast, have that sketchbook that you know what I'm talking about, that sketchbook that is half done or whatever, have that open every time and do at least just 5 minutes. And notice I'm just saying 5 minutes. What can you do in 5 minutes? Well, you can actually draw out a couple little ideas in 5 minutes. You might not be able to do a lot, but if you want to do more than 5 minutes, nobody's going to arrest you. Nobody's going to tell you to stop. You
Mm,
see where I'm going here? Just trying
yeah,
to make it
yeah,
easier to do those
yeah.
shorter term goals.
Small steps by small steps.
Yeah. Towards the
Mm-hmm.
big goal.
Right, right. Like this is like something I also have to keep reminding myself because I actually asked this question to you before. I remember asking you this on one of our workshops, and then I also asked Stanley and Stanley Lau, and he told me like, oh, that's something he faced as well, but he goes back to comfort studies. So he do what he's comfortable with first, and then he adds another 10%, and then
Oh,
another 10%, which is kind of like what you're saying, the small steps, right? Yeah.
yeah. And that's very valid. I've heard Alvin Lee say that as well. Riot
Mm-hmm.
artist extraordinaire. He said back in the day, before he worked at Riot, he was like, I don't know if he still does this, but he's like, he would just do these simple head studies of Ryu or something like that, something that
Mm-hmm.
I was very comfortable with. And then
Yeah.
from there, that's how he warm up. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't do that. I like to have a little thing that I'm trying to work on. So perhaps it's uh, the claw of a bird, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'll think about as I'm studying this claw of a bird towards the end of my day, I'll think about the fact that I'm going to have to draw this tomorrow without looking at anything, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow, that's my goal. I don't have to make it the prettiest claw or whatever, but um, it's really nice because I don't have to think about some amazing idea that I don't have at the time, and I could start painting and drawing already. Because my thing is like, I just don't want to waste time on stuff that I won't like in the end. That's the hurdle that I need to constantly jump over to get myself to draw. It's like, I just don't
Mm-hmm.
like this idea. Have you ever had
Very,
that?
yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm sure like a lot of people feel that the same way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like, so there's another question by Sarah. She asks, do you always manage to wake up early in the morning for your goals? This I know you do. Even after a late night slash night that you simply couldn't sleep, and how do you make yourself do it? You're the perfect person for this question.
Nobody is super person. Okay, so everybody generally, or this is what I think, anyways, because I drop off of my goals as well. And like, for example, the biggest kick in the pants, okay? The biggest kick in the pants. I know this is going to disappoint a lot of people. I fell off. I used to do this thing called the Wim Hof method, and I
Mm,
fell off. I stopped doing it for like a few months, I think since like September. Um, yeah, ever since after like Box Expo. And then
mhm,
all of last week, I was sick. And ever since I've
mhm,
been doing this thing, I haven't been sick. So now I'm really kicking my pants, like going, man, I should have kept it going, and I'm definitely going to keep it going once I get 100% back to normal, which is this week. Um, yeah, so everybody falls off eventually. It's like, how do you pick yourself back up? How do you get back on that horse? That's the main thing. And for me, it's about creating those simple goals. You can't get yourself to the gym. Can you put on your frickin' running shoes in your home? Just
mhm.
put those on and then see how bad you feel keeping those on. And then hopefully next week's goal is putting on the shoes and entering the gym. You can leave right after if you like. And you could tell yourself that. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Chances of you leaving is going to be less and less, and then you just kind of get back on there. So for me, the Wim Hof method, you can either sit down or you can lie down and start doing the practices, the breathing exercises and stuff. So my whole entire goal is just to lie down and press the play button. I don't have to sit there and breathe, nothing. I don't got to do nothing. But I do have to lie down.
I can do that.
Yeah, lots of people can have the goal of lying down.
Yeah, but then how do you wake up though? Because I know you go to you go to work like one of the earliest people. I remember going to the studio. You're always there, and then you're the last to leave as well. So how do you actually force yourself to wake up even after a night of like bad sleep or insomnia or.
I I just I guess I'm at that age where it's just like I can get up. I don't know if I'll be able to stay up, but I can get up.
Mm,
You
mm,
know what I mean? And I won't put too much pressure on myself. I'll go, yeah, I'll get up, and if I want to take an afternoon nap, then I will. If I want to leave
mm,
early, then I will. And I'll say that to
mm,
myself all the time. How many times do I actually do it? Very,
mm.
very few.
Very
Because
cool.
it's
Yeah.
it's just like the drawing thing, right? Like once you get yourself there and you start drawing for 5 minutes, like what you promised yourself, it's way
Mm.
easier to do half an hour or whatever.
Some kind of conditioning.
Yeah, easy first steps, lofty goals, and you're not trying to give yourself daily goals of like exactly how much you'd want to accomplish, but just something that is easy for you to commit to.
Hmm. There's another question. What is better or more effective for you? Spend a whole week on a simple illustration or try to do a daily study, for example, a color, perspective, or anatomy study?
Oh, daily studies for sure. Those are easy. It's very
Mm,
autopilot. You know, all you need to do is really get a backlog of stuff that you're going to study, and then you're good.
mm.
That's what I think, anyways. What about you? What do you think?
I think you kind of need the daily studies to get. I feel like if you do both, I remember you would tell me this as well, right? Like the daily studies should also aim at the illustration that you want to spend a whole week on, so that when you get to work on that illustration that you're going to spend a whole week on, it gets so much faster because you've already did the small little daily studies that are aimed at your illustration.
Totally, totally. It's for, well, yeah, one of my little cheats or whatever, my little techniques for accomplishing goals is constantly stacking goals together.
Mm-hmm,
You know,
mm-hmm.
like this little painting here. I'm doing this little painting and it's going to become a post. And then after this, perhaps it'll become something else. And I'll take some of the best questions out of the stream and do another like separate little video just answering that question, perhaps. That's a good idea. I should do that.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's a great one. I like that. I actually
Yeah.
forgot that I told you that, but it makes perfect sense. That's totally what I do.
There are some questions that are not really related to the goal idea, but they're still pretty interesting.
Okay.
Mm, someone asked, "Hi Bobby, sorry if this is out of topic, but I'm curious about what you think of marketing strategy for illustrations. Something like what makes it different. Like, I know you have this thing, what makes it viral. A while back, you have like a talk about this before."
Yes. Yes. Um, so I'm trying to think of some stuff that I haven't actually talked about, and here's one that I just freaking learned. Okay. So you
Mhm.
know how before when you look at your uh, Instagram or whatever on your mobile, you can see a bunch of lines of text, right? Like you see the post, and then you can see like 4 lines of text of the description. You know
Like
what I
the
mean?
caption,
Yeah, the
right?
caption, the description of the image, and now you can see less of it. Did you notice that?
That is, yeah, they do cut it off way shorter. Like sometimes
Right.
the hashtag, they put it under another comment or something.
So here's something that hardly anybody knows. If a person clicks on more to read the rest of your description,
Uh huh.
that will tell the website, that will tell Instagram or Facebook or whatever that your post is actually more important. Does
Ah,
that make sense? Like they are
yeah.
tracking that. They are tracking that. And that's something that nobody really talks about, nobody really thinks about, not a lot of people know. But that's true.
So then,
So
how
how
would you? Oh, sorry. Yeah, how would you make use of that?
right. So did you say like you put the post as like did you know that that Facebook changed this one little thing and it's going to be so awesome if you get it? Here's the thing dot 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 more.
That's like clickbait, kind of like.
It is, it is. Well, that's a shitty example. It's not a
No, but yeah, it's a very clear one though. I see where
yeah.
you're. Yeah, I
Yeah.
see where.
Like here's 10 tips on blah 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 and you can only fit in the first tip, then that's not clickbait. That's just like you're trying to list all
Yeah.
these things and you just can't.
Mhm. But that's really clever.
Right? You like that one? Okay.
Yeah, all things. Yeah. Wow.
Uh, let me try to think of another one. Um, another really good one is actually hashtags. Now,
Mm.
hashtags, that's something where, okay, you're a newbie, not a lot of people know of you, you can't really make your own hashtag, it's not going to really trend. So then you got to look for hashtags that will trend. But you don't want to be
Mhm.
all trendy or whatever. So, you know what? There's almost a day, like each day is officially some other thing, like perfume day, dog day, whatever day. There's so many different days for each day. You could look them up. You know, I was into these ballpoint pen drawings. You know
Mhm.
that there's a ballpoint pen day?
Really? Did you set that one? That would be perfect
No,
for
I
you then.
didn't, but I looked it up. I looked it up, right? So then on that day, I hashtag all these like ballpoint pen drawings, and then
Mm.
it got more traction. Now you can
Mhm.
also look up all the days, all the, national holidays, national days, or whatever of the year, and then look up the hashtag of those days so you can see the days that you would more easily infiltrate. So, for example, Christmas, hashtag Christmas. No, you're not going to get in there. Nobody's going to really see your stuff from your hashtag. But say
Mm.
it's like Red Rose Day, for example. I don't even know if that's a day. That you can probably infiltrate. There might be like 2,000 posts in your 2001. That makes it a
Mm.
lot more doable. Also, there's the whole entire thing where it's like when you interact with people that are around the same level as you, around the same, um, followers and whatnot, they're far more likely to engage with you.
Mm.
You ever notice
Mm.
that? You ever notice, like, you ever get a message and then what do? You look at the message, you look at how many followers they got.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
natural thing, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And wouldn't you
It's
be more
also
likely to
mm,
respond to somebody with the same amount of followers than you or more?
yeah.
It's so dumb. We're so dumb.
But
But that's
I mean,
that's life.
yeah, it's like human nature. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So there's like a last question that
Sure.
I think would totally like sum up a good set us on the right path for 2020 as well, which is someone asked, how do you cope with motivation and depression as an artist? Any advice on that, Bobby?
Oh, listen to the
Mm.
last podcast that we had about motivation. Wasn't that the
Mm.
last one? Well, one of them we did, and it was all about motivation. I would definitely check that out. But um, stay focused on what is in your control. That's number one. Like, that's, because it's so tough for us nowadays, especially with social media and our connectedness. We're constantly seeing what other people are doing better than us
Yeah.
and how everybody's lives are so much cooler than us. I could tell you something. There's been many times where I wasn't having a cool time at all, but if you followed my Instagram stories, you'd be thinking, wow, this is the coolest life ever.
Mm.
It happens. I'm not gonna post like the worst view of where I'm at. I'm gonna post the best one.
Mm.
That's natural. Maybe I should just spend a day just posting like the worst views of like everything that I'm doing. So everything's just so exposed and everybody's like, man, that
All the
stinks.
bad stuff that happened
It's like
in
the
between.
Taj Mahal. Everybody goes to Taj Mahal. Do they keep in the slums around the sides?
Yeah.
No, they're gonna crop those things out. And it's gonna
Yeah.
look beautiful. I like that question. That was a really good one.
Yeah. How do you have any goals or tips on how to set 2020 straight? Like a good way to start the year as an
Yeah,
artist?
uh, simple goals. If you're an artist, really like get onto something where you're learning. You're not just doing, you're not just practicing, but you're learning something because learning is the ultimate fast track in evolution, right? In evolving your art. It's not like you're going to all of a sudden draw like so and so and you don't want that. You want to
Mm.
absorb their knowledge, you want to know what they know. And when you do, you can start to kind of piece together the connections between the things that you care about and how they do things. And then the result of that is something completely new. Like a lot of the little techniques and things that I've been doing in all my digital painting videos, they're still very much mine, but I can tell you exactly where the influence of all these things came from.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm constantly in this painting, I've been changing my brush to smudge. And I've been
Mm.
doing that very, very quickly just with one kind of button on my pen. I do that because what I learned from Nikolai Lockerston.
Mm-hmm.
He's, he's a Procreate phenom, and he was like, you can set a shortcut so that you use your finger, and then all of a sudden you're smudging every time you're painting with your finger. And I got used to that on Procreate, and I was like, wow, that's great. And then I translated it into this.
Gosh.
Yeah, into
Mm-hmm.
Photoshop. So yeah, like right here, I want to smudge. I'm just gonna click on my pen, and then I
Mm.
have a smudge tool. I didn't have to go to the side, um,
Mm.
yeah, make things a lot slower and this and that, lose my flow.
It's more intuitive.
Yeah, exactly. And when things are more intuitive and just kind of comes out naturally, then that's when your painting really flows and really sings.
Well, this is amazing that you're painting like that, even though you're talking at the same time. Because I'm watching you paint on YouTube, and it's like, what? That's what you've been doing. It's like, wow.
Uh, it's definitely been challenging, but not that bad. Yeah. If you guys want to see more of this kind of stuff without like recorded paintings, let me know. Recorded paintings, I could speed them up a little bit. I can concentrate on them more. But I wonder
Mhm.
how we can incorporate live paintings into these streams more because it is kind of fun. It's definitely challenging. I like kind of feeling like I got to be really, really on point.
Mm.
I also feel like I babble a little bit more.
When was the last time you did this? Like at a workshop or?
I barely even do workshops anymore because I'm too busy organizing the workshop. So I don't
Mm.
even know. I don't even know. It's really fun though.
Yeah,
Is
I
there any
love how
last questions perhaps from the audience? Or I don't know. I guess not.
that's like okay. The last one could be uh, any advice for 10-year goals like creating an epic IP?
Yeah, there you go. 10-year goals, be don't be kind of like setting small goals. It doesn't have to be like, okay, I'm going to create the next Amazon or something like that. But you could say, you know what? I'm going to become the go-to person at my studio for this, right? I'm going to become a person that is somebody that will be looked at when there's new responsibilities. Um,
Right. This person's asking if it's like his personal IP. How would you break that for 10 years?
yeah, so my goal would be I want to create. I wouldn't say like I want to create an Emmy-winning show because Emmy-winning is out of your control. But you can say I want to create my very own TV show in 10
Mm,
years. I think
got
that's
it.
a very doable goal.
Right.
But I also feel like that's not going to be your very first show that you're going to pitch. You want to like think, okay, well, that's my long-term 10-year goal,
Mm,
and start working your way backwards. Well, how many pitches did I need to do to get to that one? Maybe you need to do 10
mm,
before one really, really hits. So then
mm.
you see what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
will help you to make those small steps in between to get to that goal. Um,
Awesome. Talk.
yeah, and that was one of my goals was to make my own TV show. Uh, and we did that, with
Mm,
Nico and the Sword of Light.
yeah.
This year, it's been all about doing more art. So I've been making up every excuse I can to get out here and do some painting, do some drawing, things like that. Um, and that's been happening too. So, you know, think about what your 10-year goal is and think about how you can do small steps that are easy to do, that you can commit to, that are pointed towards that 10-year goal. I think that's about it. Now,
Mm,
this painting, Ugh, it's not much is done here, but um, if I was gonna do something realistic, I would definitely paint maybe about three, 3 or 4 hours more on this.
Mm. It's already looking really good, though. I mean, I think it's really good.
Oh, you're very nice.
She's-
I feel like I did nothing.
Oh, wow.
But let's take a look at before and after, perhaps. What did this thing look like before? And then what did it look like after? So there's
Are you gonna
before.
bring this to color?
What's that? Well, I definitely didn't have time to do color at this
Mm,
point, but
mm,
perhaps in the future I would love to do something like that. Yeah. How are we on time? I guess we're pretty much done, right? Now,
yeah.
last thing I want to kind of mention is a very powerful thing. A lot of times we have these goals and then we want to shout out to the world, this is what we're gonna do, this is what I'm gonna do, which I totally understand, and that has a lot of power in it. And so I'm not going to discredit that. But what I want to do is I want to kind of play devil's advocate for a second, because some of the most impactful things that I've done um, were things that I didn't really tell anybody I was going to do. So, for example, like 10 years ago, yes, thought about doing this gathering, this Lightbox Expo. How many people
Hmm.
did I tell? Hardly anybody. Just a few people, very inner circle kind of thing. There's a
Mm,
lot of goals out there where it's like if we tell people, we might get discouraged
yeah.
afterwards.
You
So
kind of
it's
have to protect them.
you got to protect, yeah, yeah, you got to protect them. Totally.
Mm,
So that's what I'd say as kind of like a final word for today is
hmm.
yeah, some goals are worth protecting. Some goals you want to, shout out to the sky and just tell everybody. Think about what your goal is and um, kind of like the best way to go about it. I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's a great way to end it. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank everybody
Mhm,
that tuned in. And of course, biggest thanks goes to my co host, Shoen.
mhm.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me. It's been awesome.
Thanks, lovely. Yeah, always, always fun.
All right. So, for those of you watching, hey, if you don't have a Schoolism subscription, I would definitely recommend it because you get over 30 courses, art courses, for an entire year of art education for slightly under $200. Regular price is $300, slightly less than $300. So you're getting $100 off.
And there's
Sale
a winter,
ends. What's that?
yeah, there's a winter sale right now too. I
Yes,
was, yeah.
exactly. The winter sale, you can see it in the notes there. The winter sale ends January 16th. It's an awesome, awesome sale. $100 off a $300 annual subscription. You can't really beat that. So go to
Mm,
Schoolism, grab that because this is the thing. Once you learn enough, if you want to be an artist, once you learn enough and you can show that, you can demonstrate that, the whole world has no choice but to notice you. And that's a fact. So there you go.
mm.
So thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Bye.